At least I don't, there we go. Now I see the button. I didn't see it before. So.
I have my finger on the button. It's just one of those days, apparently. Technology does not like us.
It is all good. This is a learning experience for all of us. As Tiffany had said, we thought about doing this. It's been a couple of months that we've been having this series of talking about difficult conversations, particularly race in the workplace. Our series has sort of taken off organically in a setting where now we're talking about kids and racism, and we're having these difficult conversations around diversity, inclusion, equity, and we just want everyone to know that this is a safe space. While this is being recorded today, we are going to have an unrecorded session next Tuesday, the 25th. And that will be an unrecorded session where people can come share stories, share issues that they're having. We can brainstorm solutions, give suggestions. And so while we understand this particular session is being recorded, if there are things that you want to talk about, Tiffany and I are happy to stay afterwards when it becomes unrecorded, or please come and join us next week. But the main takeaway here is that we are really working hard to create a safe space to have these continuing conversations around race.
Can you let me in?
And thank you for your patience. Today is it's a tough technology day.
It is. That's not usually the case, but we roll with it, right? We're all a little uncomfortable right now. So.
It's all good. It's all good. And there he is. Perfect. Hi, Gil.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for taking the time to be our guest speaker today.
It's my pleasure.
Excellent. Do you want to just say a couple of sentences about your background, and then we can dive into the conversation?
My name is Gil. I live in One sec. Yes. Better now?
Yes.
So my name is Gil. I live in Montreal, Canada. Yes, hello?
Oh.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm hearing an echo.
Let me see. We might need to mute. Let's see.
One second. I know why. I have to leave on my phone.
Yeah, we did see you twice. Not that that's a bad thing, but.
Oh, but now we can't hear you.
Wanted to make
Thank
sure
you, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you for your patience, guys. We really appreciate it. No.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Here we go.
All right.
Perfect.
There you go. You're on.
Sorry about that. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
So, my name is Gil. I live in Montreal, Canada. And by background, I'm a civil engineer. I have worked as a civil engineer for a few years. Then I went into entrepreneurship. And I'm a business coach and an inspirational speaker. And the racial equality topic is a very important one for me to talk about because first, I'm Black, African American, and it has been going on for centuries, and we still have no solution because it's still happening. So that is the reason why I have found it very important to share my stories in regard to this particular topic and my thought, insight about how we can reach that racial equality we all seek.
That's great. Well, thank you. So I would love to ask, since you are so passionate about this topic, what are your thoughts about what's happening recently here in the US and in other parts of the world? It's not only happening here in the US, but it is definitely happening in other parts of the world as well.
Yeah. Even here in big cities like Toronto, and not so much in Montreal. And it is true that we have had some recent events of racial discriminations, then protests all over the world, and protests that have not been peaceful. And in response to those events, the political leaders, celebrities, big businesses have been donating, promising a lot of money to solve this global issue. Let's keep in mind that the political leaders, celebrities, big businesses want and need you to like them. Do you think it is really a matter of money? Do you think spending all this money will solve this issue? And on the other side, changing the laws and the rules and keeping the people the same, what makes you think that the new laws and rules will work out better? And it is true that the laws and the rules are, of course, more powerful than each one of us, but not more powerful than all of us moving into one same direction of love, peace, and unity. And this is a world of essentially humans, not laws, rules, money, and things. Because the humans make the laws, humans make the rules, humans print the money, and humans have created all you see around you. So humans are essential to our world. And in that sense, there cannot be a lasting change, if any, without the humans doing something different, without the humans doing something better. And if you still think it is about the laws and the rules, let me ask you, if racial equality is about the laws and the rules, why having had an African American president in the US, for example, has still not solved this issue? If racial equality is about protesting, why protesting for centuries has still not solved this issue? It's not about the laws and the rules, the money and the things are protesting. It is about humans understanding something different, doing something different, doing something better, so we can reach that racial equality we all seek. Does that answer the question?
It does. It gives a lot of food for thought, that's for sure. So one of the things when you spoke with Tiffany and I last week, you talked about an incident that happened with you and your brother in Chicago. I think if you would share, if you're willing to share that with us, it would be a great way for us to get a sense of how you've some of your experiences and move this conversation a little bit forward.
Absolutely. I do travel to the United States very often. And many years ago, I was visiting some family members. So I first went to New York to see my sister, and I hadn't seen her for a very long time at that point. So it was very nice to see her again. Then I went to Chicago to visit my brother, and I had seen him for many years at that point. So it was very nice to see him again. And it was also an opportunity to meet his fiancée back then. And I cannot talk too much about her because they got divorced 2 years ago. I got to see my brother, and it was really fun. We did so many activities. One day we went out. I can't remember to where exactly. And then we're driving back home, and we got pulled over by the police. And the police officer asked us to get out of the car. And now from experience, when you get pulled over by the police, they ask you to put both of your hands on the wheel so they can see them, and they proceed with their control. But somehow he asked us to get out of the car, which I found strange. And I'm from Montreal. If you have even been to Canada in the first place during the winter, you know how cold it is. And when you're not wearing any gloves, you really want to keep your hands in your pocket. So it has become a habit of mine to have my hands in my pocket during the winter when I'm not wearing any glove. So on that winter day in Chicago, as we got out of the car, I had both of my hands in my pocket. And immediately, the police officer pulled out his gun and asked to see my hands. The only thing that went through my mind at that point was, what is going on in this place? So I got my hands out slowly. He proceeded with his control, asked us some questions, then allowed us to leave. As we got back into the car and started driving away, my brother started explaining to me that some people, some black folks in Chicago were shooting police officers. I was so confused. How can you do that? Why would you do that? There's no possible reason to justify that behavior. And on that day with that white police officer, it was not because of my color of skin. It was not because he didn't like me. He was protecting his own life. And we have to keep in mind and remember that police officers have families they have to go back to every single day. And it is our individual responsibility to show up properly in society, to show up as good citizens, to respect the law. And let's stop confusing on one side, someone not showing up properly in society, someone not respecting the law, someone not showing up as a good citizen in society and having to face the consequences with, on the other side, someone not being treated properly because of his color of skin. Those are not the same, and something we have to keep in mind while working toward racial equality.
So I'm sure you know that that is not a very popular viewpoint here in the US at least. And so I'd love if you can share with us what it is about that statement, how you said, and I agree, you know, it's all about behavior and all of that, but you will also hear the argument here in the US that color of the skin is usually the first thing people see, and those assumptions are made, and whether you're behaving or not behaving, should the level of force be used in things that are happening here in the US. So talk to us a little bit about that, because again, it's probably not a very popular feeling, what you just said, right? That while it makes sense, behave in a certain way, you take your own responsibility for being in a certain way and behaving a certain way. But the argument here in the US at least is, if we are, what is behaving, right? And how do we fit in this norm? And are we creating norms that fit what the popular privileged society says is the right way to behave? So I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, let me explain why that is. We have the same issue with the police here in Toronto for sure, and a little bit in Montreal in some neighborhoods. And many years ago, as I was done with high school, I had no idea what I wanted to study, like most of young people, really. And when the girls would ask me back then, I would say I wanted to become a priest, which was a big joke because I was going to the Catholic boarding school back then. And one day, my parents sat me down and said, why don't you become a civil engineer? It's well paid and there's always some work. And I thought, well paid, always some work, this sounds like a great idea. So I applied for the program and got in. And on the 31st of December, I was on a plane to Canada with my father. And my father had been working in so many countries in the world, including Canada and the US. And during the flight, he was telling me stories about why racism is true and why I should watch out for racism. And at that moment, I thought to myself, why would anyone not like me because of my color of skin? How is that possible? And usually I listen to my parents, but on this particular topic, I made the decision not to be receptive to what he was saying, but instead to go out there and to live my own experiences. And mine were very different. I never felt treated different because of my color of skin. While other people, other Black people, when I was going after all these opportunities available, they were using racism as the reason why they could get all these opportunities, why they were not even going after these opportunities in the first place. And here is the point. Some beliefs that are not helpful, that are not serving anyone, are being passed on from generation to generation. And our reality is in part a clear reflection of our beliefs. Nothing, nothing under the sun can protect you against a belief that you have. A belief is something you know deeply to be true. So you cannot experience something different in life. And that is why parents and early childhood professionals have a very important role to play. Let's stop passing on to the next generation those beliefs that are not helpful, that are not serving anyone. Do not tell them stories of people not liking them because of their color of skin. Otherwise, that is exactly what they will experience in life. Let's stop passing on to the next generation those beliefs that are not helpful, that are not serving anyone. And of course, parents always have good intentions. My father was trying to protect me by passing on to me his belief on that particular topic. And passing on those beliefs is what get people to experience these things in their life as they know it deeply to be true. What has been your experience does not have to be the same an experience for your children, for the next generation. And that is where it starts. It is a big and very important part that we have to work on to reach that racial equality we all seek.
My, tremendous.
So Gil, do you ever see, or have you experienced, or what is, I guess, your take on whether there's any congruency between that? So do you think that it's possible to have to hold a certain set of beliefs, but to have a different experience? So let's say that my mom taught me, which she did, you're a Black woman, a Black girl, you're going to have different experiences. And so that is how I was raised and born. I wasn't taught, I was not taught to see difference, but it wasn't, we were not a family who didn't believe in celebrating all the things that made people different. However, if I wasn't told that, or even if I was told, like, you're the same as everyone else, your experience is not going to be any different, but then I went out into life and experienced that, like, I kind of just want to hear what your perspective is on that, because people can have one belief, but then they could have a different experience. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are there.
Good question. In the first place, children have no idea of what you are experiencing. They know nothing about racism, about people not liking each other because of their color of skin, for example. Mm-hmm. And some of the most powerful beliefs that we have, every single one of us, are from parents, people we grew up around, because they share with us how they see the world, and we accept that as something to be very true as our reality. And this is why we experience that in the first place. So that is, like, from that angle I'm coming when I say do not tell them stories of people not liking them because of their color of skin. Otherwise, that is exactly what they will experience in life. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
And I also think it is very important to define the issue, the problem that we have very well, so it can be addressed, solved properly. After university, as I said, I worked as a civil engineer for a short period of time. That I went into entrepreneurship, and networking is a big part of being successful, building relationship, as we do on LinkedIn. And I was also using a mobile app called Shaper. And Shaper is just like Tinder, but for professionals, for business people. You swipe right or you swipe left, you match with people, and then you can talk to them. At some point, I matched with an African American lady. We had a talk for a few weeks, and then she invited me to an online networking event. As I showed up, I was very excited. I was going to meet new people. I realized that all the people attending were Black African Americans, which was not something I was used to. Usually I meet all kind of people. Then we start introducing ourselves and talking about what we do as a profession. The host asked as an icebreaker who was our celebrity crush growing up. Every single one of them start replying with a Black celebrity name. Then it was my turn. And I said, Angelina Jolie. By the way, do you know who she is? She's very beautiful, isn't she? And the moment I said that name, silence, as if I shocked them. And after that first event, the woman who invited me to that event never talked to me again, and I was never invited back. Here is what I have learned from that experience. First point, responding to not feeling included by excluding others does not get you more included. It does not work. Point number two, we do not have a problem of white people not liking Black people, but we have a problem of some people, some humans who are white, Black, yellow, purple, you get the idea, who believe and maybe who take the time to think that because someone else has a different color of skin than them, that gives them the right not to treat them properly, to discriminate them. And that is where the challenge is. A challenge that needs to be addressed, a challenge that we are addressing now. So we do not have a problem of white people not liking Black people, but we have a problem of some people who can be white, Black, yellow, purple, who think, who believe that because someone else has a different color of skin than them, that gives them the right not to treat them properly, to discriminate them. So it is very important, I think, to define the problem, the issue we have properly, while working toward that racial equality we all seek. And I would like to take the opportunity to talk more about inclusion. Inclusion is something people talk about very often on LinkedIn, on social media. It is something I have lived. And they talk about inclusion, mentioning the part of some people allowing you into their group, into their organization, which is very, very important. And something they never mention is the following. It takes a small part of work from that person who wants to be included. And remember, going to all these activities just to understand the culture, how people do things, why they do things differently, just to give myself a chance to be included. Even if someone is willing, ready to open the doors for you, you have to show up and knock on that door so they can open the door for you. I know so many people, so many Black people who sit around and hope to be included. It just never happened. Because there's that small part of work that has to be done from that person who wants to be included. You have to show up. Stop waiting to be invited in the first place. Just show up. I never waited to be invited. I just showed up, which is something I think it is very important to keep in mind.
So Gil, there's a lot coming at me. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind right now, and I'm not able to organize it as much as I would like to. But am I understanding correctly that from your perspective, the onus of inclusion falls on the people of color?
No,
Okay.
like there are two parts. And people talk about the most common part, which is, for example, white people allowing you into their group, into an organization. But other people, for example, Black people, have to show up. You cannot sit around in your living room and hope to be included. From my experience, it does not work. You still have to show up. Stop waiting to be invited before you show up. Just show up first, just to at least give yourself that chance to be included. Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm gonna have to digest that a little bit.
Okay, I know this has been a lot, so I'm just going to share a last story and just get to put all the thought together in something you have to remember from this event, okay? So at some point during my entrepreneurship process, I invested into a personal development program, building my first business, and it just didn't work out. At some point, I ran out of money and I was homeless for 4 months. And this was definitely a very painful experience. It was one of the most painful experiences I ever had. But now looking back, maybe those 4 months were the most productive of my life so far. Here is why. I'll go to the library every single day, reading 1 or 2 books every day. I'll read the books and put them back. I'm sorry, that was me. I couldn't afford to buy the books. So I'll read them and put them back. So I was learning a lot because I was trying to make the most out of my time. And it is still not the reason why those 4 months could be the most productive of my life so far, but rather because I got to discover and experience some of the most powerful laws of nature. Let's focus on one of them. When you see homeless people, what are they doing? They are asking for some money all the time, always. I was not doing that. Instead, I was out there helping, serving, giving as much and as often as I could. Why? Because it is true. It is very, very true that what we put out there is what we get back in our life. Exactly. You do not get something close. You get exactly what you put out there. So what thoughts are you having? What words are you having? What actions are you taking? Because you cannot have positive, loving thought, words, and actions and experience something different in your life. And it is something we have to keep in mind while working toward racial equality. It is something we have to be responsible for individually. If you are putting some thought, words out there that are not positive or loving, you cannot expect to receive something positive or loving in your life. So if there's something you have to remember from this event, it has to be the following. Humans are the essential part of this world. Humans have to do something different. Humans have to do something better so we can raise racial equality. Our reality is a clear reflection of our beliefs, our thoughts, our words, our action. That's it. And this is something you can read in books, online, verify. Our reality is a clear reflection of our beliefs, our thoughts, our words, our actions. So we have to have beliefs that serve us. Let's stop passing on to the next generation beliefs that are not helpful, that are not serving the world. Do not tell them stories of people not liking them because of the color of skin. And it is our individual responsibility to put out positive, loving thought, words, and actions. That's it. Beliefs, thought, words, and actions. determine our reality, which I believe at this point is the only solution to that racial equality we all seek. For the next generation, helping them with their beliefs is very easy, because if they do not have them in the first place, we only have to help them have the right one. But for all the people, if you have had a belief that does not serve for decades, it's really hard to break that belief. It's just not easy. And the reason I believe why you show up to an event like this one is so you can go and do at least one thing differently, one thing better, so we can reach that racial equality we all seek.
So I have a question going back to talking with children and bias and things of that nature. So as a parent, I work very hard not to take my biases and put them onto my children. But if they're seeing things in the media and they're seeing what's happening out there and the visuals that are coming out on social media, how do we address that without putting, again, our biases into protecting them in essence?
I think in the first place, limiting what they have access to on the internet is helpful, because just because something is on the internet, it does not mean it is true. The same for the news. Just because something is on the news, it does not mean it is true. So explaining that to them in the first place, I think will be helpful. Does that answer the question?
It does. It begs another question.
Yes.
When you're seeing certain images that are coming, so you say, you know, what's on the news may not be true or the whole story. So for example, the George Floyd,
Yeah.
Gil, so the same, right? So if you look at that video and it's what had happened, how do you have that conversation with your children? Again, let's say you limit it, but how much limitation can you put on teenagers, for example? They're going to get aware the conversations happen among their friends. And so the story will come around at some point. And if they come to a parent and say, okay, so this is what I'm hearing, or this is what I saw. How does a parent, or what are your suggestions for how a parent acknowledges what they see, and then what? Tell them what?
Like, I think it is very important to explain to kids what is actually happening, because they're not stupid, they're smart. Explain to them what is actually happening, and that it does not mean that it has to be their reality. And why is that exactly? As I have been saying, their beliefs, for example, their thoughts, their words, their actions have to be positive and loving. Just be honest with them and tell them the truth, because they're smart. They will figure out something by themselves. So you might as well tell them what you think on the topic without sharing, passing on to them something that is not positive, that is not loving, that will not serve them in the long term in life.
Okay. It's a lot. I'm still processing. It's a lot. I don't know if anyone has questions or thoughts or comments they'd like to share. We'd love to open it up to everyone who's here. Anyone who'd like to share thoughts, have questions for Gil? And if not, that's absolutely fine.
Don't see anything in the chat, so feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like. Or you can use the chat function as well, that works.
All right. Well, do you want to wrap maybe wrap things up? It would be really maybe helpful to put out 1 or 2 points about, again, how we create that inclusivity, how we move that on, not only from the people of color community, but how maybe white people can also be a part of that discussion.
Absolutely. And something that is very important is to include other people into the discussion. I really like that we have all type of people here. It's really nice. So stop waiting. And this is not just about racial equality. Stop waiting for an invitation. Just show up. So you give yourself that chance to be included wherever you want to be included, which is very important. And as human, as I have said, helping the next generation not to live those experiences is very important. I'm a Black person. I see how it goes. We pass on to the next generation those beliefs that are not helpful. We must stop that. And it is a big responsibility for parents not to tell the kids, the children, the next generation, those stories about people not liking them. And then have positive, loving thought, words, and actions. And that is, I believe, the solution we have been looking for to racial equality.
Great. Well, there's a lot to take in. I really appreciate you coming. Tiffany and I are going to stay a few minutes after we turn off the recording. If anyone wants to stay and have a conversation that would be unrecorded, Gil, if you would mind staying a few minutes afterwards in case people
Absolutely.
have questions.
Absolutely.
Tiffany, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I really appreciate, so I guess that's a yes. I really appreciate, I'm like 0 and 9 today. Really appreciate everyone coming and spending the time with us. Thanks for bearing with us through some of these unprecedented technical difficulties we've had today. We know that your time is valuable. We know that, as Gil said, you're here for a purpose, and because you want to be an ally, you want to be educated, you want to be a part of the solution, and we really are grateful, because we do this not for ourselves. We do this for the community and to create that safe space where you can come and gather, ask your questions, get information, and just a reminder that we will be having some unrecorded sessions coming up, so watch for that. We typically post these on LinkedIn. You can find all of us, Gil, Suman, and I there. And if there are any last minute questions, definitely let us know. For those of you, again, who are watching the replay, feel free to send us a private message or to put your thoughts, comments, questions into the comments. So I thank you all. So if there's nothing else, then I wish you a wonderful day and good conversations.
Thank you.